Yeah. Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Building and Finance Subcommittee of the Gloucester Public Schools. Today is Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. The time is 5:34 p.m. Effective August 16th, 2023. The public is welcome to attend in person. Alternatively, the public may attend through the Zoom link listed on the agenda. The meeting notice will reflect if the meeting is a Zoom only. As the recent amendments to the open meeting law allows, the subcommittee may continue to hold meetings remotely. Please note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connection. We'll start with introductions.
Kathy Clancy, School Committee.
Melissa Fred, School Committee.
And Mama Superintendent.
Stephanie DeLisi, Recording Secretary.
Thank you. Member Bill Melvin was not able to attend this meeting, but we'll be discussing the topic at our next school committee meeting in a couple hours. And this is a one-item agenda, which is the Special Education Reserve Fund. Would you like to introduce it?
Yeah. This is what we've been talking about for a while. The mayor talked about, initially talked about establishing. Having the city, establish a special education reserve fund during last year's budget process when we were really in dire straits. These are a $750,000 reserve fund that can be used for unbudgeted or unanticipated sort of education expenses during the fiscal year. The city had to wait until the free cash was certified, which happened, I think, last week. Sort of certified and then approved, I guess it is. And so now we can go forward with, the city can go forward establishing the reserve fund for special education. And it's really a two-step process. Well, two-step process to establish it. School committee must vote on it and approve it, and then the city council must as well. And then it can be used not for this fiscal year, which is a bit of a surprise. Because folks were telling us all during last budget process that if we established it and we could use it this year, we cannot. Okay, and that's new information. Once it's established, it can be used in the upcoming fiscal years. Okay, the language you have is from the state statute, which authorizes this type of authorized municipality to create a sort of reserve fund. It's language right from the statute. You can see there's a language that you're voting on. And there's a language in the statute, they're identical. So that's from the state's website is the second page there. And then the city will then, once this is established, then they will revise the formula, which refills or puts additional dollars into each of the city's stabilization reserve funds every year. So they have a formula how they do that. The X portion of free cash goes to these certain funds. This would be included that once they revise it. So that's how, when we use the dollars, it gets replenished. That's where it gets replenished. So that's sort of the quick summary. Questions about that, or anything wasn't clear about?
So I'm just looking at the not to exceed 2% of annual net school spending. So that's the cap.
Yeah, so our net school spending at this point is about $41 million of our operating budget. So $810,000 is that amount. That'll go up over time, presumably, bit by bit.
Right.
So it's underneath that at this point, and I think that's a good. That's we can't do more than that, but that's also fits.
And do you know? And you may not know this, and I understand if you don't. The funding each year, can they fund this fund less than other reserves on the city side?
You mean in terms of like how much they replenish by?
Yes.
I don't. It depends. It depends how they create or revise the formula. I don't know the formula at this point.
Okay.
But we really would advocate for it to be this same approach as the other ones.
Right.
If not more.
No, exactly. Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear or see, like, say 50,000 go into this stabilization fund, but yet hundreds of thousands in other funds. I'm just wondering how.
Yeah. So
where the authority lies in that to make sure we're funded.
Yeah. So I don't know the process for changing that formula, but I know that they will change the formula unrelated to this process. So it's something that Gary and I will make sure we're in touch with the mayor and then Connor McCorkle, CFO with, and that won't happen without our knowledge and input, and yours as well.
Right. And I think the term should be replenished and or build, right? Because the 750 is where the starting point.
Right.
And if, we use some of it, we don't necessarily want them to replenish to 750. We want them to replenish according to the formula
Yeah.
on how they allocate free cash. Because I know on the city side, their formula had some going to capital projects and other funds. And now we'll be one of those. So I don't think it should be capped. It hopefully will build or at least be continued at an adequate amount.
Yeah.
So is that-
It increased to 2%.
Is that, is Mayor Verga gonna be at our school committee meeting tonight?
Yes.
So that's a question we can ask him. In other words, is it gonna be replenished to 750 if there's say 500 left in it, or is it going to be replenished up to the max amount going over the 750 is what I would wanna know.
Right, the 2%.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Other than that, I support it.
Absolutely. We've been waiting for free cash to be certified for a while. It's March, and I think we thought maybe it would happen late January, but so this is good. This is good news. We really need a way to buffer the really high special education costs.
Do we know if this fund prevents us from asking for free cash? Was that
I don't-
discussed in any of the
No, no.
conversations? Okay.
I will say, I just want to add one piece.
Mhm.
It is very clear about unanticipated or unbudgeted costs, okay? So that's going to be, there will, and that's good. There will always be a process of withdrawing money from this fund.
Mhm.
That's also about the school committee and the city council.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll have to make a case. But anyway, so that's, and it is, it's not to be used in a way we expect to use it. Some ways, we were getting some council advice suggestions last year to build costs, sort of assuming we could use these dollars. Okay, we didn't do that. Thankfully, we didn't do that because we had no access to this money. But we shouldn't do that. It should be for situations where we have had to add staff or additional places at a district, that sort of thing, unexpected, or unbudgeted. And we've, as you all know, I've had experienced a number of those, including this year. This year was more sort of internal staff, as opposed to, because we did a nice job budgeting for average costs. But I just want to be clear that, it says that in language, but that this is for anticipated unbudgeted. We will have to make a case to the superintendent, CFO will make a case to school committee, and then school committee with the superintendent would make a case to the city council.
And I think in the past, we haven't gotten free cash very often. Maybe once or twice, if I remember. But I don't think it's all been related to special education either, right?
So
we get
my recollection is up and through, Kirk, who came after Kirk, Sabathia. Sabathia, I believe, gave us free cash the first term.
Yeah.
It does not have to be related to
Yeah.
special ed, and we can put projects forward like O'Malley chairs. In the auditorium
Yeah.
that are
kitchen
discussing,
equipment.
yeah, but not really, but I don't think we've asked since because. We just got out of that habit, and I think it was told 2 years in a row there would be no free cash or something, so, but that's a discussion for another.
I think also, until this past year and a half, maybe two, maybe, I think last this fiscal year, we had quite a bit of grant funding for capital projects. We're doing a lot of them.
Mhm.
So that was sort of an unusual time, right? We are now out of that, obviously. I think, I would agree with both of you that you need to get back into the habit of requesting the dollars.
Absolutely.
This has been a little leaner on, this year for the city has been a little leaner on free cash than recently, but still, that shouldn't, you shouldn't refrain from asking for those because there are some significant capital projects that we are having, like the O'Malley Auditorium seats,
The seats,
are really moving on.
Yeah.
you know, and this would be, so, yeah, so I think that's pretty much.
And then finally, I just want to note my concern for the record. I mean, as we know, funds are allocated to the schools and we spend the way we choose to spend. And I just have concerns that if we do ask for this fund, that the funds that we've spent become under investigation in their determination whether there's a vote to supply us funds out of the stabilization fund. But there's nothing we can do, but just see what happens.
Make our case.
Well, based on the fact that we had a city council request an audit of our department, I'm just concerned where those conversations can go. And want to make sure that there's safeguards in place, even with this money, that we're not told how to spend our budget. Even if we're asking for extra funds in this reserve. So I guess I'll make a motion to recommend to the school committee to accept general law, chapter 40, section 13E, which upon a vote of the city council to accept the same authorizes the city to establish and appropriate or transfer money to a reserve fund to be utilized in the upcoming fiscal years to pay without further appropriation for unanticipated or unbudgeted costs of special education and recovery high school programs, out of district tuition or transportation. The balance in such reserve shall not exceed 2% of the annual net school spending of the school district. Funds shall only be distributed from the reserve funds after a majority vote of the school committee and a majority vote of the city council.
Second.
Any further discussion? Good work. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the vote carries.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn,
Second,
all in favor?
right?
Aye, opposed, the vote carries. Thank you.